I was a junior in high school when this happened. Our school was this massive old building from the 1960s, and they turned part of the basement into the classrooms because they ran out of space upstairs. Everyone called it the chamber because it was this creepy underground area that used to be maintenance space. The weird thing was, kids actually fought to get classes down there. The basement had its own AC system, and the teachers were usually pretty chill since they felt bad about us being stuck underground. Plus there was this private bathroom that only basement students could use, which was a huge perk compared to the gross main floor bathrooms that were always packed. The day it happened, we had this quiz in astronomy class. The teacher, Mr. Peterson, was this old guy who basically just showed space documentaries and gave easy tests. I finished early because, honestly, you'd have to try pretty hard to fail his class. I was bored out of my mind, so I texted my friend Mark, who was in the other basement classroom. Dude, meet me in the bathroom. Dying of boredom here. At first we were just goofing around in there, talking about the latest Marvel movie and making dumb jokes. Then Mark checked his phone and his face got weird. Yo, school's going into lockdown, he said. We looked at each other with these stupid grins. See, there weren't any announcement speakers in the basement. The school was too cheap to install them. Neither of our teachers had seen us leave, which meant we could basically go wherever we wanted. We figured the worst that could happen was we just say we never heard the announcement. The basement had this narrow staircase that led up to the main floor. When we opened that door, something felt really wrong. All the hallway lights were off. Now, I'd been through plenty of lockdown drills. They always kept the lights on, they just locked the doors. But this time, the halls were pitch black except for some light coming through the lobby doors way at the end. Mark stepped out first, and I followed him. That's when he grabbed my arm and whispered, "Who's that?" Through the darkness, I could see someone walking toward us, but they were walking weird, like really fast but kind of jerky. At first we thought maybe it was a teacher doing lockdown checks. But as they got closer, I felt my stomach drop. This guy was dressed in filthy clothes, like he'd been living on the street. His hair was matted and wild looking. "Let's go," I said. We hurried back down to the basement, but now we had a problem. Both classroom doors were shut in dark, proper lockdown protocol. We couldn't knock because that would get us in huge trouble for being out of class. The only option was the bathroom. I hit the lights as soon as we got in and we ducked into the corner stall. That bathroom was built weird. It had these thick concrete walls that blocked all sound from outside. The silence was complete. No ventilation. No heaters, nothing. Just our breathing and water occasionally dripping from the sink that never worked right. The door opened. The light from the hallway came in for just a second, then darkness again. Footsteps came toward our side of the bathroom. Then they stopped, and we heard this heavy breathing, like someone who'd been running. But there was something wrong with the breathing. It had this weird whistling sound, almost like a wheeze but not quite normal. Mark made the biggest mistake possible. He whispered in my ear that we should crawl through the other stalls. But in that complete silence, even his whisper seemed to echo. The breathing stopped instantly. Then we heard something that still gives me nightmares, this low, wet chuckle. Just one quick sound. But it was so wrong, so inhuman. The stall door rattled as someone tried to open it. I whispered, "Go. Go." We dropped to our hands and knees and crawled under the divider to the next stall. Then the next. The whole time I could hear this scraping sound. Like something was being dragged along the stall door. We made it to the far side and stood up to run. As we opened the bathroom door, light flooded in for a moment. I looked back and saw the man from upstairs standing in the corner. But what I saw in that split second was worse than I'd realized up there. His face was covered in these weird dark stains. And his eyes. They were completely white, like there weren't no pupils at all. We pounded on Mark's classroom door. His teacher, Mr. Roberts, let us in right away. He was about to yell at us, but stopped when he saw our faces. Mark started telling him everything, and added something I hadn't seen. He said the guy had a gun sticking out of his pocket. I was shocked because I hadn't noticed any gun. But thinking back to those weird movements, Maybe that's why he was walking so strangely. The whole class was dead silent, which was bizarre for high school kids. Normally they'd be laughing at us making drama out of nothing. But everyone looked terrified. Then there was this huge bang on the door that made me jump so hard I bit my tongue. A couple girls screamed. Through the window we could see the man trying the handle. His face was pressed against the glass, those white eyes staring in at us. After a few more bangs, he walked away toward the stairs, making that weird jerky movement. We sat in total silence for over an hour. Mr. Roberts kept asking us questions in this really quiet, serious voice, shaking his head at everything we told him. Finally, someone called down and told us to line up and walk outside where the police were waiting. We had to describe the man to the cops and the dean. One officer patted me on the back before sending us home. But I saw him talking to another cop afterward, both looking really concerned. After this happened, the school went crazy with security cameras everywhere. New PA system in the basement, the works. But the weirdest part? The incident never made the news. Not even a small mention. We never found out if they caught the guy. But a few weeks later, I overheard the teachers talking about how someone had found weird scratches all over the inside of that bathroom stall, like someone had been trying to carve something. And my friend who worked in the office said they found security footage showing that guy had been living in the basement for days before we saw him, coming out at night to steal food from the cafeteria. I'm convinced he was planning to kill us in that bathroom. The way he moved, those eyes, that laugh. Sometimes I still dream about it. But the thing that really keeps me up at night is wondering, what was he doing down there all those days before we found him? And why did the school try so hard to keep the whole thing quiet? I was checking out Lakewood University last year. My parents couldn't come with me. I was 18 and staying alone at the Holiday Lodge near campus. I spent all day doing campus tours. I got dinner at this burger place down the street. I went back to my room around 8 p.m. I was planning to visit more departments the next day. Sure. Here's how you can add natural pauses to the text. Something weird happened about an hour after I got back. This alarm started going off in my room. A white light was flashing in the corner of the ceiling. A robotic voice kept saying, "All Holiday Lodge guests, please remain in your rooms. This is a lockdown." I didn't know hotels could even have lockdowns. I'd never heard of anything like this before. I wasn't really scared at first. I was just confused. The alarm sound stopped after a few minutes, but the white light kept flashing. The message kept playing every 20 seconds. It was only 9:30, so I turned on the TV. I started getting ready for bed. I changed into my pajamas. I brushed my teeth. I got under the covers and watched TV for a while. I turned it off after about 30 minutes. That bright white light was still flashing. It was really annoying. I couldn't sleep with it doing that. I was about to call the front desk. Then my room phone rang. It was a woman from the front desk. She didn't sound normal. Her voice was shaking. She told me to stay calm and walk out of my room right now. I asked her what was happening. She said there was somebody in the room with me. She said I needed to get out immediately. I dropped the phone. My heart started racing. I looked around the room. I checked under the bed first. Nobody there. I looked in the bathroom. It was empty. Then I saw the closet door next to the bathroom. It was one of those sliding wooden doors. There was a tiny crack open. I saw it looking at me through that crack. My brain didn't understand what I was seeing at first. Then the door slid shut. That's when I ran out of the room. The front desk people showed me their security cameras. The footage was from an hour earlier. This guy was walking up and down the halls. He was checking specific room numbers. He got to my room. He used a key card to open my door. Then he went inside. I waited in the lobby while the police came. They went up to my room. They brought the guy down in handcuffs. He wasn't very tall. He looked about 45 years old. He stared right at me when they walked him past. He smiled like he knew me. The police searched him. He had zipped eyes in his pocket. He had duct tape. He had a knife. The police said he had stolen a master key card from housekeeping 3 days ago. The hotel manager told me something later. He said they checked the room's electronic lock. The guy had been going in and out of my room for 2 days before I checked in. He had been living in that closet during the day. He would leave at night when the guests were sleeping. The police found pictures of me on his phone. He had taken them earlier that day when I was touring the campus. He had followed me from the university. He had watched me eat dinner through the restaurant window. I never went back to look at that college again. I still check every closet whenever I stay in a hotel. But the thing that really scares me is wondering, what would have happened if the front desk hadn't seen him on their cameras? How long was he planning to stay in that closet, just watching me? This happened during my last week of senior year. Everything was pretty relaxed. Nobody was really doing work anymore. I was in the parking lot with my friend Jake. We were smoking in my car. Our friend Tony texted me from the lunchroom. He wanted us to come hang out. Jake and I walked back toward the school. We were going to use the back door by the music rooms. Tony sent another text. He said the school was going into lockdown. We went in through the door anyway. Red lockdown lights were flashing in the band hallway. Nobody ever came to this part of the school. It was just the band rooms and some storage closets. I texted Tony back. I asked if this was just in real. Jake and I stood in the hallway waiting. Tony replied with, "Dude, holy shit." The typing bubble appeared there. It stayed there for 30 seconds. Then it disappeared. He didn't send anything else. I sent him 3 question marks. No response. The main lights were off now. Only the backup lights were on. The red lockdown lights kept flashing. We couldn't find any teachers. All the doors were locked. Jake tapped my shoulder. He pointed down the hall. Someone was walking toward us. They were walking really fast. We thought it was a teacher at first. Then we saw the mask. The person was wearing all black clothes. They had this white mask on their face. We started backing up. The mask looked like rotting skin. It had black spots all over it. The eye holes were just empty black circles. The man was getting too close. He was walking straight at us. His hands were clenched into fists. We turned and ran back to the band room. We hoped Ms. Miller would let us in. We pounded on the door. Nobody came. We had to split up. I ran into a music storage closet. I don't know where Jake went. I turned off the closet light. I hid behind a big filing cabinet. The closet door had a window in it. I could see into the hall from the backup lights. I heard footsteps coming. I crouched down lower. The footsteps stopped. I thought maybe he was gone. I looked up at the window. The mask was right there. 2 black holes staring at me. I ducked back down. The door creaked open. He tried to find the light switch. He gave up. The footsteps walked away fast. I checked my phone. Jake texted that he was okay. He had run to his car. Tony finally sent a long text. He said someone had stabbed a kid in the bathroom. The guy had a knife. I looked out the door. The hall was empty. I ran straight to my car. At least 10 police cars were there now. Jake came and sat with me. We watched for 30 minutes. They let school out early. Police officers walked with every group of students. They searched the whole school. They never found the man. He probably went out one of the back doors. Helicopters searched all day. The police interviewed everyone. They took our phones to check the texts from Tony. They looked at security cameras. They never caught the guy. The school tried to keep it quiet, but rumors started going around. The kid who got stabbed lived, but he was hurt pretty bad. He said the man in the mask had whispered something when he stabbed him. He said it sounded like the man was crying. A week later, they found something in the band storage room. It was behind some old instruments. There was a sleeping bag. There were food wrappers. There were pictures cut from old yearbooks. They were all pictures of students who had band classes. The police think he had been living in the school for weeks. He knew about the banned hallway because he had been watching us. He knew when students would be alone. Sometimes I still think about those black holes in the mask staring at me. I think about how close I was to being another picture in his collection. But mostly I think about why he was crying when he stabbed that kid. What made someone decide to live in a school and hunt teenagers? I don't think I want to know the answer. I was a police officer in Pennsylvania for 20 years. This happened at a middle school in 2019. I can't say which school. The case is still open. It was raining that day. The sky was dark at noon. Dispatch called my unit about a lockdown. Someone saw a man get out of a white van. He went in through the back door by the boys' locker room. I drove to the school. I parked next to the white van. Nobody was inside. All the doors were locked. I went in through the back door. The halls were dark. The school had turned off all the lights. I took out my flashlight. I walked through the gym hallway. A woman came out of the front office. She whispered to me. She said to check the boys' locker room. She said the man might have a weapon. I called for backup. Dispatch said more units were coming. I went back to the locker room door. I pushed it open slowly. The room was pitch black. There were no windows. A vent was blowing air in the ceiling. I heard something else under the noise. It sounded like scratching. Something was hitting the lockers. The sound moved around the room. I should have announced myself. I should have said police. But I was scared. The room felt wrong. I held my gun in one hand. I held my flashlight in the other. I walked to the other side. The sounds kept moving. When I was in one spot, they came from another. I stood in the corner by the bathroom. Someone slammed a locker in the next room. I jumped. I followed the sound. It came from the football team's locker room. The lockers there were bigger. There was no door between the rooms. I finally shouted, "Police!" A kid started screaming for help. The sound was muffled. It came from inside a locker. Someone was banging on the metal door. My stomach turned. I told the kid I'd be right back. I ran outside to check the van. It was gone. I hadn't written down the plate number. I told dispatch to look for a white van. I ran back inside. I told the office to end school early. I told them to bring the locker room keys. We got the boy out. He was 12 years old. He was bleeding from his arm. The boy told us what happened. He had been changing after gym class. The man grabbed him from behind. He had a knife. He told the boy to be quiet. He said they were going to go for a ride. The boy fought back. The man cut his arm. He shoved the boy in a locker. He said he would be back. He said next time he would bring friends. The police found the van a week later. It was at a gas station. They arrested the man, but something wasn't right. The boy said the man had talked about friends. The police checked the man's phone. He had been texting someone about the school. He had maps of 3 other middle schools. The case is still open. The police think there are more men involved. They think they're still out there. They think they're still watching schools. I retired last year, but I can't forget that locker room. I can't forget those sounds moving around in the dark. I can't forget what the boy said about the man's friends. Every time I doctor past a school, I look for white vans in the parking lot. I watch the back doors. I wonder if someone else is inside, waiting in the dark. I wonder if they're still hunting.